Today, the Globalists is at the stunning offices of architect Hong Tae-sun, CEO of YKH Associates. This year, he became the only practicing architect in Korea to be honored as a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. Over the past 30 years, he has led approximately 600 projects in Korea and around the world, and is renowned for his musical, living architectural styles. Mr. Hong joins us today to talk about his art and the secret to his success. Welcome to the Globalists, Tae-sun, because we've seen each other before. You have a lovely studio here, and we're just very glad to be here.
Welcome to my humble office here. This delineates my musical ideas and common elements between music and architecture.
These offices, I mean, this building is a reflection of you. It feels very personal. But the building itself,
Yes.
as an architect, we see a lot of bricks. It's like a brick by brick kind of office.
Yeah, right. I mean, interestingly, I set up the branch office of Yamasaki Associates, which I joined in 1992. I became partner in 95, and I was in charge of international works. So obviously, the first place to establish an office outside of US was Korea. And that was back in 2000. And then we moved around so much because of land price and the rental costs. But we had to stay in Gangnam area because most of our consultants were nearby.
This is sort of considered the high-tech, high-end of the construction and design industry.
Yeah, I think because people tend to figure out where the good architects is, and mostly I think located in Gangnam area and in Korea. So I always wanted to have a headquarter office in Korea, but the price was very high, so especially land price and so forth. And fortunately, one of my friends who wants to invest in real estate, and she was looking for a place in Cheongdam-dong area. And so I suggested her, I was like, why don't I design building for you, and then we could house there forever. She said, okay. So, but she had a very limited budget. So I could only find a very small lot up high.
How big is the lot?
The lot is only 66 pyeong, which is about 218 square meters.
Okay.
It's rather small.
Rather small.
Yeah, and we had to house about 40 people, 40 crews, so that requires at least 170 pyeong. So I had to maximize it, the space, but there is a money constraint.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out what might be the best material to realize my dream. And I found this used Chinese brick. And,
It's
used
refurbished Chinese brick.
Right. So
Wow.
we used the brick entirely, even the floors, walls, everywhere. And I was able to finish under 700,000 USD, which is pretty good price then,
And it's all painted white.
It's not painted, it's the color of the brick. Yeah.
Oh, the brick itself is
white. Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is four stories?
Five stories. Yeah, 5-story, very small lot. The main problem was the stair. We had to have a direct stair from the 5th floor to the bottom. And if you put it in the middle, that will divide the space because the site itself is very long, elongated site. So I was like, how should I do it? And in my dream, I saw this wrapping around stairs, almost like a stairway to heaven in the Led Zeppelin. So
So it came to you in a dream.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
like, what if I just wrap around the stairs to the top? and obviously they might be a little problematic in terms of getting an approval, but it was okay, fire the regulations and so forth. And I wrapped around the stair outside of the building.
So it's sort of like that, like a swivel, the thing that you would sometimes see in homes.
Sure. And I put everybody underneath me. Stairway to heaven. I'm the God.
You're on the top.
I'm the God, yeah. So.
You're God. Well, that's wonderful. But it feels like you have a very clear aesthetic and sort of mission, and you have a very creative way of resolving them. How does that translate into some of the other architectural jobs that you've had?
Well, initially, when I was studying in the 80s, I went to Yale School of Architecture. Mainly, they were so much involved in postmodernism, putting a lot of things together, and it's almost like unevenly. And there was like getting away from modernism. But when I was at New Haven, I fell in love with Louis Kahn's building. There was a Yale Art Gallery, there was British Art Gallery, but his philosophy was kind of based on modernism, but it's very monumental, meaning that he used very rectilinear geometry, very simple, but it has a romantic side to it,
Sort of like the Greek.
Yes, like temples.
The temples to the gods type of things.
He put a lot of emphasis on the place and history. And then I worked at Yamasaki. He's really into detail. How he got selected for World Trade Center. He finished everything within the budget of building only 4-story, 50-story tower. And he built into 2 towers at 110-story. With the same budget. I think that was possible by his, particularly interested in details. So I learned there a lot of details from Yamasaki office.
So with all of this influences you got, what part of that led you to be recognized as a fellow of the American Institute of Architects?
Ever since I started architecture school, my dream was to become FAIA. Obviously, it's very tough.
Is that a dream for
mostly
architects?
Practicing architect in U.S. Yeah, because it has to be recognized by your peers. You have to be recommended by your chapter that you belong in, and then you gotta get like 7 different letters, recommendations. Then you have to write a thesis about it and interviews, and it's very tough. And then they're divided into 6 different categories. 1 is being design, 2 is like practice, management, government, related, so forth. All 6 of them are all different, but obviously design is a little tough because it's very subjective, depending on the jury, right? They might like your design or not, so.
And it reflects a style.
Right. So I didn't think that I would get it this year. I was recommended by San Francisco chapter, but I got it. And it was also a dream of William Koo. Yamasaki was FAIA, but William Koo wasn't.
Really?
He applied several times, he didn't get it. So
wow. Well, he must be proud that the person he recommended got it.
Right. So it was a big honor for me. And, out of 100,000 architects in U.S., only 2 to 3% gets it. So
describe to us some of your architectural masterpieces. We've heard about the 새별브루어리.
Yes.
Which I saw the pictures. I've never been there, so unfortunately, but I want to go because it's so stunning looking.
Thank you. Well, most of my work has money constraints. Every client
doesn't every client?
Yeah, that starts all my design building. It starts with the budget, and budget was very tight on that project, and requires about 800 pyong, which is quite large, because the owner wants to show the entire process of beer making.
It's a beer making brewery
right.
in Paju, which is only about an hour or so away.
Sure.
North of Seoul.
North of Seoul.
Yeah.
And for the money that I have, I could only use the exposed concrete. That's about it,
Very pour concrete, that's about it.
Right. So I had to figure out a new methodology. So the contractor and I were looking at Peter Zumthor He's a very famous Swiss architect. He came up with some idea of a different type of formwork using the natural wood so that the formwork obviously is cheaper than the conventional formwork. And he burned the formwork so that it has like dark texture of bark is exposed there. So I thought it was beautiful. So he and I sort of altered the idea. We even add the cobalt blue color pigments.
Yes.
And mixed it, and then use
especially
the
when it's lit up at night. It is like an art piece.
Right. So we came up with a new construction method, and we got patented, and it came out very nicely because when we pulled out the larch wood, local larch wood, cut in half, we pull out, the bark is embedded in the concrete. So actually, the concrete, it doesn't look as natural.
Yes.
When you put those bark in it, it becomes very natural with the blue colors. So it felt like a little more kind of poetic architecture I was trying to do.
It's a concrete tree.
Right.
In a way, yes.
Right. It changes color too during the daytime, and compared to the nighttime.
Now, it's hard to pick a favorite. I know, it's like, who of your children do you like the most? They all do. But is this brewery one of your favorites, or do you have others that you sort of like think that represents me, Tae-sun?
Well, when I was with the Yamasaki, I did a lot of high-rise buildings. And then we moved towards, shopping malls. I did a bunch of, outlet shopping malls in Korea. And then right now I'm doing a lot of hotel projects, which is nice. But my aim is I don't have a particular style that I pursue. I told you that I like Louis Kahn and Yamasaki,
Yes.
but I think architecture is based on problem solving. If the problem was, let's say, save money, then I have to figure out a way to save money, right? So it always deals with people's needs and health and safety. So you have to meet that first before you put on jewelries and hats and so forth.
It's not quite like just painting on a canvas.
Right. So I think you develop that sense of problem solving. That process figure itself out as a design. And I like the fact that those very tight budget turn out to be good. I like that kind of building the best. It's almost like finding a cheap wine, but it tastes amazing, kind of thing.
Well, it tests your skills,
Right.
and it takes you to the limit of really being able to resolve this.
Right.
Now, the 새별브루어리 was one instance where you were able to really come forth. Are there other instances where you faced these challenges and you felt like you've overcome them in a creative manner?
Yeah, the other project was one that just finished about 2 years ago, is Po천힐마루 golf course.
So it's designing a golf course or like a golf...
All the buildings in the golf courses.
The clubhouses and everything.
Right. So we were working with the golf designers and to figure out the clubhouses. And then obviously there's a budget, right? And figuring out within the budget was tough. So where you focus your emphasis. So I focused on the clubhouse. Most of the money went into clubhouse. And even the clubhouse itself was very tight budget. So I had to figure out...
most of the budgets obviously went to the golf course.
Right. Obviously, so we had to figure out the material, because that's the most expensive part, right? So we figured out very nice stone from China, brought in a raw form, and it was the base texture on it. And then I wanted to, emphasize the entry and using special wood construction. And that was a Swiss company called the Bloomer Lehmann. And they specialize in the tree-like 3D form. So that sort of collaboration was amazing. And even though it was just the point of the whole structure, that kind of, glowed the entire structure. And it came out very nicely. I love that inside and outside. At night also it glows.
Oh, wow.
It's quite beautiful, yeah.
I'm not a golfer, but I'd love to see the clubhouse. It's not often that we come to an architect's studio and have the architect play the piano, but obviously you love the piano and you are a very good musician. I mean, I can understand art because, you know, it sort of I can see how that is enveloped into your architecture. But how does music play a role in how you create your architectural designs?
Well, I think I have to start with the story of my musicianship. You know, I told you that I got into a boarding school as soon as I immigrated. That was a school called Cranbrook. It's very famous for art. But obviously, I was a 9th grader at 반포중학교, and I couldn't speak the language when I got there. And the only thing I can express myself was through music and art. So I just played all night long.
To get that frustration out.
Right. And then I just felt like that I was a good pianist. So I told my mom that I want to become a pianist. I said, what? No way.
Yeah.
With your skill? No. Not. And then she said, she kept forcing me to become a doctor, medical doctor.
So the opposite of a pianist, but anyway.
So anyway, I persuaded my mom to go to a college where conservatory was available so I can study music. That was Oberlin College in Ohio, small college with a college and conservatory. And I was trying to double major music and pre-med. I actually minor in piano, performance, and studio art. But because I played such a long period of time and I study architecture, it felt like music is closer than art to architecture, my opinion.
Okay.
Because take a look at it, you learn how to read music. Same is true for architecture. You learn how to read the drawings. You know, drawings are reflected in the form of plan, section, elevation, right?
So like reading music is sort of like reading design.
Right, reading the drawings, right?
Yeah.
To construction drawings. And then you have to play it to really understand the music. Otherwise, the music score doesn't mean anything, right?
It's not alive.
Same thing with architecture. You got to build it to look at the space and feel the space. So it's like sound is to space.
But you're just saying that you are music, piano, and medicine. How do you go from medicine to architecture?
Another funny incident. I really wanted to be a doctor. I studied for a long time. And
your mother wanted you to become a doctor.
So it's like a Jewish mother, right? So anyway.
A Korean mother.
In the third year, junior year in college, I was getting an internship at Harvard Medical School. And I was researching on the alcohol effect on human. So my duty was provide the blood to this rat in a test. So I killed 50 female rat using French guillotine every day for 3 months, in the summer.
Yeah.
So I just felt totally disgusted about whole situation, and even the surgery that I was trying to do, and the rat dies, and I just felt devastated. What if I kill people? So from that point on, I said, medicine, no, I don't think so. I got to look for something else. So I tried to apply for Wall Street, and trying to get into chemistry or biochemistry field, and many fields. I was looking at it, and my sculpture teacher told me that there's a perfect fit for you, which is an architecture that combines science and arts. You have all the arts experience. Okay. Why don't you try out? And I said, but Athena, I cannot spend another 4 years in college. I want to go direct. Well, just test it out.
Start working.
First. Yeah. So there is a program at Harvard called Career Discovery for 3 months program. So without telling my mother, I had to come up with the $20,000, the tuition. So I worked in New York as a computer programmer, made the money, and got into Harvard and studied for 3 months, and I loved it. And from that point on, I worked for the professor at Harvard. I got into Yale, and since then I've been kind of...
Rest is history, as they...
Right.
Tell us a little bit more about your legacy. I mean, you talk about your architectures and your work, but it's a little different from your art because it is for people. You have people has to live there thrive there, grow there.
Right.
And it will last, I mean, you're only starting your architecture career at 60, but way beyond you.
Yes.
How would you like your architectural design to be thought of and reflected?
One of my main theme of architecture design is timeless. That's what Yamasaki was intended to do, and I'm the same way. I don't like the building with the style, per se.
So modern and
yes.
so distinctive that it can only be from one person type of thing.
Right. I mean, it could be good, but I think it has to meet the needs of the client, and I think the space has to be utilized. If it is just empty space for the show and for the look, I don't think it's a good architecture. So I'm always searching for that timeless thingy. And what Yamasaki did, he designed the first airport in Saudi in the 50s, and then there's no resources available. So he used precast concrete from other world, and brought it in, and then just erected. And that's very smart. And then he used the pigments and the pieces of marble inside the concrete when you precast it. So after 30 years, then marble started showing up. It's more beautiful. It's like
so
stunning.
they cast the marble inside the concrete.
Concrete, but in the debris, you use some parts of marble.
And so when the concrete sort of fades,
and then
because
even
as
wider,
concrete does, then it's sort of, it's sort of like discovering your jewels.
I was like stunned, looking at these buildings in the 50s and 60s. I think that kind of architecture is what I'm looking for.
So you're looking really forward.
Right.
So timeless.
Right. And I don't like to decorate the buildings. I think it has to be the way it is. A lot of colleagues and architects that I see trying to put jewelry on, hat on.
Not the earrings. You don't want the necklace.
Or the decoration. It's just the additional cost, and it doesn't do much, in my opinion. And then also, it's sort of like fashionable,
Well, you sound like Bernstein. Who actually you like in terms of, you admire in terms of his style of playing. It could be classical music, it could be Broadway, it could be jazz. But he sort of seamlessly intertwines all of this. Is that what you would like to do?
Yeah, I think so. My opinion, architect is very similar to conductor of orchestra.
A conductor of orchestra, musical,
Yeah. Because, architecture involves almost 9 or 10 different divisions, structural, mechanical, landscape, lighting, all of those, they're a specialty. You have to hire them as a subcontractors. But I don't need to know I don't need to calculate the structures,
You don't need to go in and fix the pipes.
But I need to know superficially what that is about. Just like conductor. You don't have to play oboe, but you know the sound, right? Yeah. And sometimes you have to kind of downsize it to make the beautiful sound.
The whole harmony.
Yeah, so harmony is important. And architect is just like that. You have to create using all the consultant, including the owner, including the contractors. You got to involve everything, but you got to create this beautiful piece. So we are the magicians of finding that beauty or the whole music or whole space. So I think that's why it takes a long time to kind of simmer,
And that's why I guess he said that, starting at 60 is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're looking forward to more wonderful creations too. It's something that is always, I think, an asset to spaces.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting us. We had a wonderful time at your studio.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. And we'll talk again.
Yes, we will. Oh, not in 20 years. Much earlier.
Thank you.
And that's it for me. I'll be back next week with another globalist who's putting Korea on the map. Sunji out.